At first, it looked like a normal day at the crowded train station. Officer Mark thought it was just another routine patrol with his loyal K-9 partner, Rex. But then, in the middle of the crowd, Rex suddenly stopped. His body stiffened, ears up, eyes locked on a little girl holding her mother's hand. Then, the girl did something strange. Her lips quivered as she tapped her mother's sleeve 3 times, her fingers trembling. No one else noticed but Rex did. His growl broke through the noise, deep and urgent. Within moments he was pulling Mark forward, refusing to obey commands and leading him toward a secret no one else could see. What began as a routine patrol would uncover a chilling scheme and a silent cry for help that only a dog could understand. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The morning rush at the Central train station was in full swing. Voices echoing, footsteps clattering, and the distant rumble of trains arriving and departing. Officer Mark adjusted his cap as he scanned the crowd. His partner, Rex, a Sharpie German Shepherd, walking proudly beside him. 4 years. They'd worked side by side, search operations, missing persons, even bomb alerts. And Mark trusted Rex's instincts more than any humans. The K-9 had a sense for danger, something almost supernatural, as if he could feel tension before it happened. Today seemed ordinary. Families hurried to platforms, coffee cups in hand, travelers dragging suitcases across the polished floor. But then, without warning, Rex stopped. His ears perked, muscles tensed, eyes locked on something ahead. Mark followed his gaze and saw a woman in a blue coat, walking with 3 children. Nothing unusual until Rex let out a low growl. Quiet but certain. "Easy boy," Mark murmured. But Rex wouldn't move. His attention was fixed on the youngest child, a little girl holding the woman's hand. Something about her posture, the stiffness in her steps, made Mark uneasy. He crouched slightly, his hand resting on Rex's back. "What is it, partner?" he whispered. But Rex's steady stare gave him the answer. Something wasn't right. Rex's growl deepened, low and tense as the little girl shifted closer to the woman in the blue coat. Mark watched carefully, his training kicking in. The woman appeared calm, but her eyes darted around too quickly, too often. Something about her didn't fit. Then it happened. The girl's small hand reached up and tapped her mother's coat. Once, twice, 3 times, slow, deliberate, and shaky. To anyone else it might have seemed like nothing, but Rex reacted instantly. He barked once, sharp and urgent, his gaze locked on the child. The woman froze for half a second before tightening her grip on the girl's wrist and pulling her forward. Mark's instincts roared to life. He motioned subtly for Rex to follow while pretending to adjust his radio. The crowd moved around them, unaware that something extraordinary was unfolding. Between a silent dog and a frightened child, Mark whispered into his earpiece, "Unit 12, requesting quiet backup near Platform 6. Possible distress signal." His voice stayed calm, but his pulse quickened as he followed. The girl glanced over her shoulder, her tearful eyes meeting Rex's for the briefest moment, pleading desperate. Rex slowed his pace, his body low, eyes unwavering. Mark swallowed hard. That wasn't just fear in her eyes. It was a cry for help. Only his partner had understood. Mark's hand rested on Rex's harness as they trailed the woman and the children through the crowded station. Every step felt heavier, every second stretching thin. The woman glanced back once more, her expression tightening when she noticed Mark behind her. Then she quickened her pace, steering the children toward the corridor that led to the restrooms and maintenance doors. Rex's hackles rose, his tail stiffened, and he began to pull harder. Mark followed quietly, keeping to the edge of the hallway. From behind a vending machine, he caught faint voices. Two men arguing. One hissed, "We can't stay here long. The package has to move now." The other snapped, "Relax. The next train leaves in 10. The word package hit Mark like a punch. He exchanged a glance with Rex, whose body trembled with alertness. Moments later, a muffled sob echoed from behind the service door. Mark's stomach dropped. He drew his weapon, whispering, "Stay sharp, buddy." Rex crouched, muscles coiled. "Ready." Another cry, softer this time, frightened. Without hesitation, Mark kicked the door open. Inside, the woman froze mid-step, terror flashing across her face. Two men spun around in shock. One bolted for the back exit, but Rex lunged, teeth bared, cutting off their escape. The other man dropped a bag, spilling fake IDs, passports, and cash. Mark's voice thundered through the room. "Police, don't move." The room fell into chaos. The woman dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face as Rex held one of the men pinned against the wall, his growl echoing off the tiles. "Please," she cried. "I didn't have a choice." Mark kept his gun steady, eyes shifting between the trembling children and the scattered evidence. "Start talking," he ordered. "Who are they?" Between sobs, the woman explained everything. She wasn't their mother. She was being used by the traffickers to appear as a harmless parent, escorting her children. The real plan was darker. The group was moving victims through crowded stations, blending in with families so no one would suspect. "They said if I didn't help, they'd hurt my daughter," she whispered, her voice breaking. Mark's throat tightened. The little girl who had signaled Rex clung to her sleeve, terrified. "You did good," Mark said, softly, crouching beside her. "You were brave." Her small voice trembled as she replied, "Mom told me if I ever got the chance to tap 3 times. Rex shifted, his gaze locking on the open doorway. A sudden noise echoed in the distance. Footsteps running. One got away. Mark barked into his radio. He turned to Rex, voice firm, steady. "Find him, boy. Don't let him vanish." Rex's ears snapped forward. In an instant he bolted out of the room, paws pounding against the marble floor, chasing the scent of the man who had slipped away. Into the crowd, the station erupted into chaos as Rex tore through the crowd, his bark echoing down the long platform. "Move! Police K9, Mark shouted, sprinting behind him. Passengers scattered, gasping as the German shepherd leapt over benches and suitcases, eyes locked on the fleeing suspect. The man darted between commuters, clutching a black duffel bag, tight to his chest. Every few seconds, he looked back, panic flashing in his eyes as Rex closed the distance like a bullet. The suspect shoved through a service gate and bolted toward the maintenance tunnels. Mark followed, the sound of boots and paws thundering in unison. The tunnel lights flickered, casting moving shadows along the damp walls. Ahead, the man stumbled, dropping the bag. Documents spilled across the floor. Passports, IDs, photos of children. Mark's chest tightened. Rex, hold. But Rex didn't slow. With a powerful leap, the dog lunged, knocking the man to the ground. The impact echoed through the tunnel. The suspect screamed. As Rex pinned him, teeth bared inches from his throat. Mark arrived seconds later, handcuffing him as the man gasped. "You don't know who you're dealing with." Mark ignored the threat, calling it in. Officers flooded the tunnel, recovering the evidence that tied the gang to a massive trafficking network. Outside, the rescued children were loaded into protective vehicles. The little girl, wrapped in a blanket, spotted Rex and broke free, running straight into his fur, whispering through her tears, "Thank you." 2 days later, sunlight streamed through the precinct windows as Officer Mark stood beside Rex, who sat proudly at attention. The room buzzed with quiet admiration. News of the rescue had spread everywhere. Headlines called it the K9 who saw what humans couldn't. Reporters had gathered outside, but inside the briefing room it was calm. Mark looked down at Rex, his partner's amber eyes calm, steady, and alert as always. The chief stepped forward, holding a small silver medal for extraordinary service and bravery in the line of duty, he said, fastening it to Rex's harness. Applause filled the room. Rex wagged his tail once, then turned his head toward the door. A soft voice came from the hallway. A little girl. She ran in, clutching a small flower in her hand. "This is for him," she said, shy. Mark knelt as she placed the flower by Rex's metal. Her mother, eyes glistening, whispered, "You saved my daughter and me." Mark smiled softly. He did what he was born to do. As they watched the family leave, Rex pressed closer to Mark's side, tail gently swaying. Mark whispered, "Good boy, partner," because sometimes true heroes don't wear badges.